Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Popcast Live, where we're going to unbox some DUNE cards and also discuss DUNE Messiah, the novel, when we get as we get the chance here. Kind of go through it naturally, see if we can get any cool cards, and talk about different characters and stuff that come up. And I'll try to mix in talk of DUNE Messiah, the book, because the film adaptation of that is coming up, and we've had our first teaser trailer for it, and now we're I just finished the book, so we'll get into that. Last time we opened up a pack of DUNE cards. We got some fun ones. I actually have it displayed elsewhere, so it's not over here, but I got a Leto Atreides card that's like a spice version, so that was cool. And I got this nice Princess Arulin card as well. So yeah, we opened one pack before, blaster pack, and we're gonna open another one now. So there will be spoilers, just so you're aware of that. Spoilers for DUNE, the movie, DUNE, the book, and Messiah. I have not read any further than DUNE Messiah, so we'll keep the spoilers to that point. And let's get into it. Try to keep everything in frame here enough. Hopefully, still perfecting my unboxing and card setup here and stuff. Should probably mount my unboxing camera a little something a little less shaky, so I apologize for that. But here are the packs. So in this we have let's say 7 packs per box, 4 cards per pack. So again, it's crazy how few cards are really in each pack, but it's the way it is these days. Unless you buy I bought some over the weekend, some anime cards. They have a few more in a pack. I was not able to resist just opening them right away at the con and stuff like that. So no unboxing for those, but maybe sometime I'll show off some of the good ones I got there. Anyways, DUNE. Who's excited for the upcoming DUNE movie? I certainly am. All right. As the Baron heals, there's the Baron in his tub. Very nice. Try to keep these all on screen and keep some apart. Taken hostage. That's a cool shot. I like that one. Guy got this. Looks like a coloring gradient over it. This one's got a little, you can see that? It's a little kind of white line on that side. know if that's a mistake or part of those kind of cards. Duncan, Idaho returns. So again, there's spoilers up on the screen. We'll say with that, yeah, Duncan, Idaho does return. This is still from the first film. And if you remember in the first film, looks like Duncan, Idaho dies. But anyone that is paying attention to trailers and stuff or casting things and all that will be aware that Duncan, Idaho is coming back somehow. And he does indeed, which I think is... I heard a long time ago that, yeah, Duncan was around for a while. So I kind of had that spoiler, unfortunately. But it was still, it's like, oh, in what fashion is that going to be? How is that possible? And that was pretty cool in the books, how they did that. A bargain fulfilled. Some people called this out in the movies of like how they really sort of went away with the mentats that were in the book and then in the first film. In the second film, you really don't see them, which is strange because Thuet Heifer, remember you spell his name? He was the Atreides mentat, and he goes on to play a larger role, some background stuff or whatever, and he's just completely dismissed in the second film, which is kind of a shame. He had some extra depth, and then yeah, so he dies, and we sort of just don't get more mentat action. But there's no way around that in the next film, I would say, because you know the mentats are so important. They're the computers of the time. You know, people that have been trained in a way to think like with a computer's mind, calculate all kinds of things for everyone instead of having your smartphone in a pocket. Maybe you have your personal mentat. So, boy, packs go fast. He shall know your ways. It's a nice card. Nice shot. I like that some of these packs have been opening, you know, like the Marvel ones and the Star Wars ones are very much like set up portraits of characters and stuff. And that's cool. And you get a lot of cards that are sort of the hero shot. But it gets to be a little bit samey, you know. And so this here you get movie stills and stuff. That's nice. But get back to Duke Leto Atreides here. I don't know if it's, I forget if it's Leto or Leto, I guess. Okay. Speaking of mentats, here we are. It's a nice portrait shot of him. Peter of the Harkonnens. Harkonnens are such a huge deal in the first Dune book, first two Dune movies. It's not really a thing in Messiah. They've been dealt with. See if I can get another one on screen here. I'll shift these over a tiny bit. Yeah, the Dune Messiah book, much shorter than the first Dune novel. And I expressed some concerns when I started reading it that maybe Frank Herbert was getting a bit, I don't know, too high on himself in the beginning. It felt like things were progressing in a manner that didn't flow naturally, and every sort of line of dialogue and different conversations, it's like he was trying to make each one profound, and everyone was trying to be profound, and someone's like, just say what you're trying to say. And so it leaves this impression that maybe Frank Herbert didn't know what he was saying with each character. But as the book goes on, that goes away. And then I find real wisdom in there again. So I don't know what that is, if that's me or if anyone else has ever picked up on that or thought that felt similarly. But yeah, it's the Dune novel is one of the few books I've read that genuinely you can tell it's written by someone that's done a lot of deep thinking and has a lot to say. And that really impressed me. And so I was kind of worried, like, did he run out of ideas in Messiah when that came time? From what I've understood, and maybe I have a misunderstanding of this, is that Frank Herbert really wasn't planning to do a follow-up to Dune. Obviously, then he did a total of 6 books. So it kept going. But yeah, I don't know if it was something like it felt like it wasn't as well thought out to begin with. Maybe I'd feel differently now if I reread it, knowing how it all unfolded. I don't know. Here we got one of Raban now. So 2 Harkonnens back to back. I thought, what's his face? David Batista did a good job in the films. Here's one of our different special cards. You can see the extra sheen on there. Paul and the Ways of the Desert. Right up front and center there. All right, let's go back to here. Cover that up. Oh, and then another kind of portrait, but a fancy one. Jamis. So Jamis was, it's really interesting because through Paul and their fight, it happens in a different place in the book. It happens in Siege, and like in the movies a little bit, you're like, oh, here's this kind of crazy guy, won't accept these others in, all this sort of thing. But it's a very sort of official, I don't know, we get a good insight into the Fremen people, much more than we're ever allowed to see in the movies, through him and his death. So pretty important character in that regard. The things they leave out, like Jamis had a wife and kids, and being Paul defeated him in this combat, Paul now takes on the responsibility of his wife and kids. The kids were with at least one of the kids was a child of a different father, I believe. Or if he fathered both kids, either way, split parentage there, because Jamis had defeated someone else and also inherited his kids then too, that person. So it's just the way it is. Like, it's really a thing that's left out in the movies, is like Paul at such a young age defeats Jamis and now has a wife and children. And so they sort of, it is a thing, like, I don't know what happens to, we know what happens certainly to his wife, but the kids aren't really talked about that much, I don't think, if I recall. So where they went and whatever they ended up doing, hopefully they lived, but they're never really become central players or anything like that. But one of the bigger distinctions between the book and films. Okay. Lady Jessica, Bess Stilgar. So they do this a little better in the books too. Again, they brought into Siege and all this sort of thing, and it's not just sort of like we got the drop on you type of thing. It's made more clear, like, Jessica is you know, we're going to take Paul. They kind of make the case like, okay, you have your weirding ways, you can teach us that, but there's this real tension of what is going to happen with Jessica to begin with. You know, a wife of Stilgar is an option. There's things like that it eventually leads to then, okay, Reverend Mother is the path we'll choose here. I do think they did a good job with that in the film and making it like, okay, I don't feel like I have too much of a choice here. If I want them to not kill me, then oh, nice. Stilgar. So I very much like this character. Some people talked about him being made a little too much like the religious fanatic, becoming, veering on comical in the films. And I could see that element, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him in Messiah or in the third Dune film, because he still plays a major role. Paul's vision of Duncan. Yes, I don't know if this box set is a little earlier than that one, because I think so far we've only gotten Dune Part 1 cards. That one's a little harder to see, but I guess it's it's his vision. So the sandworm encounter. Yeah, and this is a production art kind of thing, art department sort of shot. Okay, another pack down. Talking about, more about Dune Messiah book, what I thought of it overall. I really did like it a lot. In the end, again, I felt like it was kind of a rough start, but it's going to be really interesting to see as a film, because it's depressing. It is a tragedy. And I'm wondering if they'll kind of have the courage to keep that. Because, I mean, big summer blockbuster, is that how you're going to wrap it up? And I don't think Denis Villeneuve is doing another one. I mean, maybe he will, but I'd be surprised, I guess. The new Duke's ring. Plans for Arrakis. Another Beast Raban. Okay, here's a behind-the-scenes shot. Denis Villeneuve directing the Baron. Baron, such a big presence in the first two, and then obviously killed. Though, such a big deal. Like, these are some of the things they're really going to have to bridge. They address Paul's sister, Aaliyah, in the second part of the film. But in the books, Aaliyah is born, and she's a child, and she's the one to kill the Duke. It's Aaliyah of the knife. And I like it a lot more than the way they kind of do it in the films here, with Paul doing the deed as well. I get people's hesitation, because how do you? The whole thing is Aaliyah is born prescient and has this awareness before birth, because of the water of life that Lady Jessica ingested and converted while Aaliyah was in the womb. So she's born, and she has she's basically a Reverend Mother as a child. And so she freaks everyone out, running around the Dune book, and she's terrifying people with what she's saying, and how could she know this and whatever. She's in ways a mini Paul. But yeah, doing that as a child. So conveying that convincingly would be a tough thing to do. I think they should have tried, though. I don't know. I understand that trying to, like, not. There's a lot to squeeze in a film without making it feel rushed. So I get that. But Dr. Liette Kynes. This I've complained about this character before in the representation in the film, just because in the books you understand, like, she is like the one the Fremen go to. Like, she runs stuff. In the books as a he. He's in charge, and Paul, that's part of how they're able to be accepted into this, is Paul sort of makes a deal with him, and Paul impresses upon him and gains his respect, and that leads to, like, them not just being outright killed or anything like that. Before they're discovered and they run, and then Duncan Idaho is killed, there's a conference, meeting between Paul and Kynes. And I just think that in the film, we lost the importance of the ecologist here. Really wasn't brought up. We think of her in the film as more of a, like, she's the in-between. She works for the Emperor, she's sort of their, I got the sense of like an ambassador kind of thing. But he is more than that. I'm still really grappling with how they're going to, because, I'm not, I like the Dune movies a lot, but that's after reading the books, like, I am with others in that they really messed up Chani, really messed her up. And I don't know how they're going to square her character in the new movie. I really don't. She is such an integral role, has such an integral role in the next film, and she is very much ride or die with Paul, and that's just not the kind of ending we get to Dune Part 2 of the movie. Seems like she's out. So are they gonna have to waste time, like, bringing her back in, or worse, are they going to do something where she's pregnant, and when she finds out, she comes back or has to be protected or something? But that really it's a critical thing that Chani, throughout the course of most of Dune Messiah, is not able to conceive a child. There's reasons for that. Again, spoilers. It's because Arulin is poisoning her, just keeping her so she cannot become pregnant. So when she does, because she moves, like, outside the reach of Arulin, and they find this out or whatever, then she's able to have kids, but it affects, because of the poison she's been fed so much, it affects the childbirth. And this is what leads to, again, spoilers, her demise. That she's the pregnancy complications because she had been poisoned for so long. And just, if you go in this, I don't know what path they're going to take. Maybe it'd just be like a simple kind of almost a retcon where it's, okay, look, she was upset, she got out, and she comes back, they love each other, she understands that, like, Paul's relationship really is one out of expediency. He really isn't going to touch her or do anything with Arulin, much to her frustration, because everyone is like, Paul needs to have a child with Arulin. That's the only way we're going to control this. So the only way we're going to get this back on track, because we can control Arulin, and if we can control Arulin and her child, we can get rid of Paul, and we have a legitimate successor to the heir, to the throne, all this sort of thing. And so it's a big deal that Chani is there, is always like, Paul's like, Chani is going to have my heir. That's what's happening here. And Chani is on board. Chani in the book even suggests, like, why not maybe give Arulin an heir? Why not do it? That's how invested she is. She's like willing to be like, look, for like, that's what everybody wants. There's a lot of strife here. We can make some peace if we just do this. And Paul's like, you know, you can see all these different timelines and possibilities. And it's like, that's not going to work. That's going to be the death of us. And it'll just be the Bene Gesserit running the show again. So, Shadow Mapes. Again, from the first one. Kind of one of our eyes into seeing how the Fremen are reacting to these new off-worlders coming in. Visions of Chani. Our friends Pete that remarked on the first film was how it's like just this, you know, spiced drug dream all the time. Too many Zendaya kind of dream scenario sequences. Path in the Desert. This is a very famous shot. I feel like this is used a lot. I might have this card yet too, so maybe I've just seen it so many times. That frame. Oh, and then Duncan Idaho Returns. So we have this one, but I think this is, I don't think the other one was this special one, this kind of silver framed one. It's not numbered. That Kynes one is numbered. All right. We got 2 packs left in this box. It really is. This must be an earlier box. I'm guessing that's not, because we've had no Dune Part 2 ones yet. Raban, Harkonnen, Beast Raban. Training with Gurney. Still one of my bigger complaints of the Dune films is how they managed to portray the fighting, you know, believing Paul is capable. Especially then they do this too with Chani. Again, Chani in the books is not part of the Fedaykin. She is not part of their like Fremen death commandos. That's not a thing. It's not what she does. It's not believable in the movies. It's not believable even with Paul, the way it's showcased, but it gets better. They do better into that kind of thing. But it's just, I don't know why they had it. Well, I do know why they had to do it. They had to have a strong female character, and she couldn't just be strong-willed, strong of, you know, constitution. She has to, you know, also be a little tiny physical badass. It's silly. Another of that kinds, but the non-special one. So, and then Arrival on Arrakis. When I mean, again, I was in Dune World when we saw the Atreides ship take off from Caladan, and then they arrive on Arrakis, and the ship door opens, and the bagpipes are going. Yeah, all for that. It was really felt different out there from other films. I put the link up on the screen. If people are interested, we have a coffee page, you know, Popcast _on_the_rocks coffee page. That's coffee is KO-FI. You can leave tips on there and whatever. If you'd like to support us in any way, really what the basically would go to is I pay monthly to have this Restream program I'm using here. It works really well if you're going to stream by yourself. You know, it keeps things simple versus using like an OBS and stuff that I've done for gaming and everything. It would go to that. And I also have this thing right now where I can generate clips automatically. AI generates clips, so I use that. And then if things were to grow further, we'd have to use something like Andrea always still has her microphone. It's like down and like taking up a lot of her screen. So we get an arm or something to move that in a better position, maybe some better lighting for her, that kind of thing. So that's where that stuff would go. Search for the assassin. Yes, they got the person piloting the hunter seeker. I think that's what's called in the first one. Gurney Halleck. Gurney, cool character. I like him. He is basically not in Doom Messiah. He's mentioned. We understand where he is, but yeah, not really mentioned. I would have liked his, if they're going to do this confrontation with Raban and him, I would have liked that fight to be a little more involved, but they were saving the big knife fight for Paul and blanking on his name right now. The Baron's nephew. Maybe we'll get one of his cards. Well, not in this one, I guess, because it's Dune Part 1 only. Harkonnen Commander. Okay, Stilgar's out. Been out for a while, so cover him up. And a bargain fulfilled. This is the same card we had earlier, but a special one. Okay, that's that blaster box. That's all those. No Dune Part 2. I don't know if there's a date on this box to say, because I thought even some of these cards were supposed to include things from the TV show, which would be really cool. Let me see here. Look at my other cards. I only have one more Dune box. Let's see if it says a date. Yeah, 2024 is this and this one as well. So when did Dune Part 2 come out? Was it 2025? Dune Part 2. Okay, it was 2024. So I don't have the box anymore to the first one to see, but we're going to stack these back up. Other things I want to say about the Dune Messiah book. I thought it was really cool the way that Duncan Idaho came back. There's some really cool moments in there with that. And I have to admit, when we'll open the next box. We got one more. That was very cool the way he came back. When I first was introduced to Dune, I didn't realize it was quite so, like, I thought it was more strictly sci-fi than like fantasy elements. You can decide for yourself how much is what, but there certainly is a lot of sci-fi in there that's real or possible feasibly. But that's part of why I like this set so far in the future. It's like 10,000 years in the future. Well, who knows what becomes of humanity at that point? If we're still around or what. But I like to think so. And, ultimately, despite Dune revealing, like, in their Frank Herbert's mindset is like, yeah, humans survive, but for all the progress and advancement, humans are still what they are. And wars don't go away. Religions don't go away. Wars over religion don't go away. People's personal, like, they have weird people that can seem like hybrids or evolved all funny and stuff like that. And they are used to navigate space and everything, the Spacing Guild. And yet everyone still has the same motivations. There's no greater peace or real enlightenment. Humans are humans, and is good and bad, all the good and bad. And I don't know, I like that, because more and more it's looking like, with AI, people just are gonna not exist. So he shall know your ways. We had one of those in the previous set. Might go through this box a little faster. Let's get. So I don't know. In a sense, I feel it's hopeful in that way. And they, in the Dune world, go through, they go through the war with AI. I like that they address that sort of thing a little more in the TV show, Dune Prophecy. I think that's cool. I guess I won't spoil Dune Prophecy here. Maybe not as many people have watched it. I know it's based on a book that I have not read, so. But the AI ban thing is not as, or the thinking machine ban is not as, the way it's portrayed is like, oh, well, it's just done, it's just done. But it's interesting how the things that Frank Herbert thought about, like they have the whole, we have nuclear weapons and this, like atomics, everybody agreed you can't use them. Like, it's just, the great houses have them. It kind of use it as it happens today to keep things in line, but you can't use them. Thinking machines were just done. People were getting soft, incompetent, reliant on anything but human. And therefore, we're getting rid of it. We're betting on and investing in humans. Well, we're getting a lot of the same cards, I have to say. It's pretty surprising so far. So I don't know how many total cards there are in this set. But, okay, so a fancy lit kinds, but not a numbered one. So we have a regular one, this fancy silver one, and then a numbered one, I believe is how that goes here. Yeah, more on Doom Messiah. Really, really tragic. It's really interesting to see Aaliyah. I'm excited to see like in most in the movie, Aaliyah and Duncan. I think their relationship is interesting, and it's going to require a better performance out of Jason Momoa than I've ever seen him have to give before. So I'm excited for that. This is a lot of the same cards. I don't know if we've had. Oh, let's see. We got a shift here. remember how many I had out last time, but gotta make room for the portraits. Okay, here after this next one. This is a new one, anyways. So Chani, special shiny one, and numbered. So that's a special card, anyways. Again, I want to make clear to people, I don't think it's a Zendaya problem for Chani. I don't think that's an issue at all. It is a how she was written, and Denis Villeneuve gave some sort of excuse at one point as to why he changed Johnny, but I didn't buy it. Didn't buy it because it creates these cascading problems, and they had to know. You know, my only solace is like they have to have a plan. They're not handling these movies like they are Star Wars. It's the same creative vision, you know, other than new cinematographer now and the next one. And so I'm confident that there's a plan. But if you like, Frank Herbert's books, at least so far, are really well thought out. And every piece kind of matters. You know, it's dealing a lot with prophecy and getting that prophecy right. And if they do this wrong, I don't know, you're just really risking running yourself into plot holes or messing with character motivation, like why does this person do that or whatever. And I know, I think that's risky. It's really risky. It's not like these are some kids books that like are simple. You know, when you're going through them, like, okay, why is, you know, especially in Messiah, why is Paul doing this? Why is why does it have to be this way? They let you kind of have to fill some of that in. Like the whole thing I think is really interesting is in Messiah, the jihad in Paul's name basically gets out of control. And I was trying to think about how this, you know, because it's like people say in the book, even you can just end it. You can just end it. But the idea then is if he tries to go against this rabid followers, he ends up losing control because he already has the great houses that don't want to deal with this prescient guy, you know, and that's running the show now. If he loses the Fremen too, it's kind of one of those things like if you take someone and that's incredibly popular and they end up, they can turn against you really, really quickly. And then his rule is over. And so if you don't just let them go, I had thought of a good example before. Maybe someone out there can think of some other examples, but you can think of it with like a political figure or something like that, because this is where it most directly would apply. You know, if you have some sort of fanatical base that's following you, here's what I thought of before. It's like, and what was the name of the group? I can't remember the name of the group. There was, and forgive me, you can think whatever you want. I'm not trying to be political, but the book is political and is just an example. There is a group, I'm blanking on their name right now, during the first Trump term, I guess, was kind of when people were talking about it more. And they had nothing to do with Trump, and Trump didn't have anything to do with him either, but they were loyal like followers, and they kind of concocted this whole other thing that like this plan that he was part of and things that were going to happen, crazy things that were going to happen. And it's like you can either come out and say, hey, all this stuff is nonsense, stop it, you're ridiculous, and then lose whatever chunk of followers there are, lose them, have them turn against you or something. Or you can just like ignore it and say, I don't know anything about that or whatever. It kind of creates the following, the cult around sort of creates its own mythos and its own, missiontaria, it acts on its own accord. And you lose control of that, unless you want to bring it all down. Now, I don't think this is good of an example because, again, I can't think of the name of this group, but there was a small minority of people. Would it have made any difference? I don't think so. But it's just an example of kind of a real world, more recent thing that you could see happening throughout history, where especially previously of maybe you'd think of age of poor communication, delivery of information from one way to another. And now, though we have the proper delivery of information and dissemination of it, it gets muddied with things that are just not true, or it's so easy to lie and then spread that lie. The name of the group will probably come to me at some point, but here's a new card and a cool one. Duncan, Idaho, a spice card. So I'll have to look up how much these are going. My Duke Lido one, that's a spice one, supposedly in great condition, graded or whatever, is like worth $24. So, but that's a cool one. And we haven't had much Duncan in here, so, which is again surprising, being this is clearly just Dune Part 1. So this is famous shot again in a different background. And then we get another fancy, like, I think this is a production, like I don't know, but it's the carry-all messing up. But no, it's one. I was listening to this video that was sent to me recently about how, how basically how poor writers are these days or whatever, and just not taught why literature matters, classic literature, how people would write. And it's one of those things where they were talking about how people's information now is formed so heavily on things that they've not experienced. So the idea is it can be formed by fiction as well. So you would have things that are, it'd be the example of watching Mad Men. And then because you didn't live in the 50s, you kind of just like take a lot of information in from Mad Men. It's like, oh, that's how the 50s were. It's like, no, it's made up. It's not real. And it's someone's idea of something that could happen or whatever. But these kind of things, especially over time, and then other people see that and they also make things that are similar. And it's just sort of builds up this idea, this image in someone's mind that's giving them what they would see as factual, that isn't. And so if people don't have like lived lives, because we live so much online through other people's eyes, through other people's perceptions, whatever, your view of reality becomes pretty warped. And someone like Frank Herbert from his time or whatever, where it's not online, this is like early 60s. He did a lot of things. He speech writing, I think, for politicians, journalism, traveling, all this sort of thing, living life, seeing life, experiencing, it's like, if your human interactions are interactions with people online, that's a shallow imitation, but if you have to how many people now even they work and they barely see anyone from work because they just remote in. They remote in, have to do some Zoom calls. They don't go into the office and then after the office every Friday. They're all going out to the bar and hanging out and doing things and like dealing with people all the time, face to face. And then people that are like, you jump, so many people, they go from middle school and high school, which isn't real life. And then they go to college, which isn't real life. And then they go into a job that, maybe they're in that job for a long time. People before, they would go and they would work, they'd be working 8 different jobs by the time they're, mid 30s, on and on, whatever. And all this is life experience and stuff that then can lead someone to finding nuggets of wisdom. And that's what I appreciate about Frank Herbert's works. There's a lived life behind it. There's a lot of thought. There's a lot of wisdom that I just don't get in other fiction. And that's, is a new card. To be fair, I'm definitely not as well read as I should be or would like to be. So maybe there's a lot of great stuff I'm missing. Feel free to drop your suggestions in any of the chat. Here's a new card too. Lady Jessica. We haven't seen a lot of her either. It's a nice one. Oh, this is Paul Commands the Voice. It's a nice one. The voice had to be a tricky thing to discover. I know they talked about that a little bit, like how to make that sound. And I think they did pretty good. And Kind's Sacrifice. All right. Last pack. I am sad that this, if we look through, like, this is my first blaster box, Princess of Rulin, Herald of the Change, Fade Ratha, They're the Emperor. There's a lot of portraits in there. I guess we're going through the portrait ones, but just to give everybody an overview, definitely a bunch of these are similar too, but there's some different ones and some from part 2 anyways. So must have been a little newer blaster box. Maybe I'll have to spring for one more or something to get nice to have a few, or I'll wait till the new Dune movie comes out and then get one that includes those two. I am very excited for where Dune is going to go. There, Lady Jessica. Now as a Reverend Mother. Replace this Jessica here. Okay. There we go. Third for Hiawat. We talked about him. Hiawat. He's a cool character one. It was pretty unique. Sardaukar Bashar. We didn't really spend too much time getting to know much of the Sardaukar in the movies. And last one, Visions of Johnny. So, okay, that's that box. We'll have to combine them all now, put them in order. Pretty excited about the Duncan one here, and some of these Lady Jessica ones are pretty nice. Again, I got this numbered one here, so I'll have to look up those 2 cards for sure. There was one other one in this other pack that was numbered too. To see what people. Not that I'm selling any of them. I just like to know, and there's a numbered one, and which ones you should really put in extra sleeves or something like that. They'll all go in a book, so I'll be pretty well protected. But anyways, that's my blaster boxes for Dune. I have, I'm going to do another time. I have a couple Star Wars ones yet to go over their different years. So it's a 2023 and a 2024. So the idea is I was hoping to get in my 2025 box, I was hoping to get some good Andor cards. Basically, very little. It's very little. So I'm not spending a fortune on these, so I'm buying over and over and over. But so I got 2 different years, and the idea is this one here will hopefully have some cards from Ahsoka and maybe Andor season 1, and this one will have some Andor season 1. That's my hopes there, along with, of course, prequel and classic trilogy cards. And then I have 2 more Marvel boxes. They're for 2025. Again, on the last set, I was hoping to get some Fantastic Four cards because I actually really like the Fantastic Four movie, and I got zilch, nothing. So better luck on those. And then I have 2 secret boxes. They're bigger boxes, and I'm gonna make sure Andrea's on board for talking about those things, because she will be interested in them, I'm quite sure. So anyways, that's my Dune cards now. Those are done for now. I think we'll wait till, unless there's some super on sale or something, I'll wait till the next movie, Dune Part 3, comes out to discuss or to get another pack and use that as a method to discuss the new film. As a sort of overall, like in reviewing summation of Dune Messiah, the book, I liked it a lot. It was a good length. It after the bits in the beginning, I started to see where it was going, and like the new characters that were involved were interesting. It really gets a lot about Paul and trying to figure out how to, I don't know, it's a complex thing, because I think ultimately, if you're looking at this, I was thinking about this today, how the Dune and Dune Messiah are like one big story about the folly of central planning. It's a story that, because there's all kinds of elements to this, there's all kinds of like things of, taking over one place or another, colonization. It's like motives, individual people's motives versus the larger scale. It's power plays. It's all this sort of thing. And it's one man's struggle and uprising that in a sense he's forced into, like what path is he going to go down? But then how he becomes so, because he can see futures, it changes the dynamic. Because what you would do from point A to point B, making decisions and going, is one thing. But if you could see how those things unfolded, making those calls, that's going to obviously change what you do. And so on one hand, there's lots of decisions. You'd be like, what, Paul, why wouldn't you do this? Why wouldn't you do that? Well, the idea is that he can see where it's going to go, and he's trying to choose the least bad route, which is crazy because I don't remember the number, but in the book, Paul's Jihad, he's responsible for billions of deaths. At one point, they remark some of the, leaders of the past, some of the bad ones too, and sort of laugh at how few people they killed, and think back to like how, I'm guessing they could never imagine someone killing more people than they did. And Paul's in that spot now where he's like, there's no way someone could be responsible for more death than I have been. But yet he's still choosing a path here that he thinks is going to be ultimately best for humanity. But as you see in this, again, that's why I call it like the folly of central planning, is like comes to realization that despite all this awareness, despite seeing all the past before him, he's still becomes the fool and is washed up with the waves of the universe. Like he still can't, he's near a god and he still can't control it all. It's too much. It's too complicated. There's always unforeseen variables. And it makes you think then maybe things could have been a lot better. Maybe there could have been a lot less death and destruction had you gone a different way. You know, was your vision missing something or whatever? And in the first book, there's something describing, you know, like the way they see the future, and sort of is like, you know, you can see doorways. You can't always see what's on the other side of the doorway till you've gone through it. So it's a complicated thing, you know. I always wonder how many drugs Frank Herbert also took to like kind of envision and explain these sorts of sensations, and like the madness that it would be living through so many timelines and scenarios and possibilities. I think it's really fascinating. It's interesting, and makes it, you know, if I could see someone that again was looking at this wanting a more strictly sci-fi thing than having a fantasy sort of element to it, of being turned off by the craziness that we have here. But it's just a way to, like, we can see a leader that you know, is grappling with what's to do on a personal scale and a very grand scale, and how even knowing the future is not like a guarantee that like this person's, you can't just put your hopes and dreams in this in one person like this, because you can't control it all. So, but it's really interesting to see where it goes. I'm excited to start the next book, Children of Dune. I don't know if I am going to jump right into it. If I'm going to read something else a little first. I will say I did like a lot to read. I did this for Dune Part 1, the first Dune book, and for Dune Messiah, Comic Book Girl 19. I can like link to her channel or something in the description later or something like that. But she does this whole book club version for the Dune books, and you can go through the playlist, and she does a breakdown of each like section chunk of chapters, and then which is just nice as a refresher, hearing someone else's opinion on some of it. I will say I didn't finish the last one, because the last segment she did, because it was getting a little spoilery for future books. Didn't really encounter that previously, so why all of a sudden then? But otherwise, it's a useful series, and it's a fun thing. Like, oh, I got done with this section, now listen to that. So if you're like me and you like this kind of stuff, you want to talk about it, you want to hear about it, you want to debate it and go back and forth about it. So that's one version of doing that. But that will be it for this like quick impromptu card unboxing thing. Just wanted to talk a little bit about Dune Messiah, and have an excuse to open up my other Dune cards now. And make sure you like, share, subscribe in all the applicable places. Yeah, share it out to other people that care about Dune. And we'll be back. It should be on Friday on the Ohio Anime channel. If you want it live from YouTube, Ohio Anime, or on X and Twitch and Rumble for under Podcast on the Rocks. But we're doing an anime show. It's going to be kind of a recap of our anime convention we just recently did, and some of the things we liked about it, some things we learned about cons. And so if you're into the convention side of anime, or interested in any way, be a good thing to tune into. So anyways, that's it from me, and we'll talk to you next time.